gentlemen, if you're ready to race, make some noise in that corral. Trail runners, let me hear you. We're going right here, right now. You got this. All hands on your business. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's race. Skyrace 46K.
All right, that's a wrap on the Broken Arrow Skyrace 2026. Philemon took the win yesterday in the signature 23K, and he did take home $30,000 for the win. I took 128th place overall and got this pink hat to show for it. I also did complete the Triple Crown, by the way. All 3 races. I did the Ascent on Friday, 46K on Saturday, and the 23K yesterday. Got a bunch of medallions here to prove it. A few different colored hats, including this extra one for the triple on my head and this nice little Triple Crown thing here. In case you were wondering, I asked several Nike employees and people around Broken Arrow. Could not figure out what was supposed to go in here. I think the idea is maybe to get these medallions in there, but they are too big to fit in there. So this is just like an empty kind of 1, 2, 3 situation right here. Got a couple quick stats on the races here. Again, I took some clips during the 46K. I was so beat up yesterday's race, the 23K. I didn't want to bring the camera out. I was just like, oh, I got to get this loop done. No time to be taking clips and anything like that. So yesterday, 23K, 14.25 miles, 4,527 feet of gain overall throughout the whole course of the Triple Crown. That's a total of 46.4 miles, 15,945 feet of climbing there. So quite a solid weekend. Check out my earlier video recap of the Ascent. Have some clips in there. I'll be showing some clips of the 46K, but it is the same course as the 23K. You actually do one big loop, and you do that same loop twice for the 46K, and then the 23K, and the next day you do the same exact loop. So the course is the same for all 3 of the loops over the past couple days for me, so you'll be seeing those in the video. Want to go through some of my shoe choices, maybe some of my gear choices. The first race in the Ascent, I wore the Chirac 02 as I talked about. Had 3 different sock choices throughout the event. First one, Chirac 02 is quite a thin shoe. I went with the Sidas or Sidas. I heard somebody say Sidas over the loudspeaker in the village yesterday. I've always been calling them Sidas, so I'm gonna double check on that. But this is their Run Anatomic sock. This is their kind of thin. It's not a ultra lightweight. I'm wearing these ultra lightweight ones from Darn Tough here. It's not quite that thin, but it's not a mid-weight sock. So I like this in the Chirac 02. That was my Ascent pick. Next day, 46K, I went with the Kip Summit Race, and I wore my Sidas T-Free trail socks. I love this setup here. Got the separate big toe there, and the other 4 toes are contained in this other area. So kind of along the lines of a toe sock, but only a single toe separated here. And I find that works good because sometimes I do get blisters between my big toe and the next toe right there, so this sock is great for that. I did find it was a little bit thin on the run though over the 46K. I got some hot spots on the back of my right heel, and that was a big issue during the race. I raced the week before Dirty Dog Trail Marathon back in Boise, 26.2 miles of course. I think it was about 5,000 feet up and down, and I wore this exact same setup with the Trado Trail Gaiters here. T-Free sock here, Kip Summit Race, and I had no issues at all. But I think it was something about the extreme climbing grades here on the Broken Arrow course, and also the rockiness in some parts. Some parts are quite technical, especially on the back half when you're going downhill. Foot twisting a little bit more than that smoother course I ran back in Boise, so I was getting some heel irritation. I noticed it somewhere towards the end of the first lap. I was really concerned about, should I make a stop, try to find like a medical tent, like somewhere at one of the aid stations and get taped up or something in order to get through that second loop. But over the course of the race, I kind of find ways to manipulate my foot inside the shoe, or different ways of kind of moving, whether it be keeping your foot more flat when you're climbing, or keeping your foot flexed and not trying to like bend your foot as much. I was doing like weird things to not cause that rubbing on my heel to get any worse. So that was the issue that I was going through with this one, and that is what led me to switch back to the Chirac 02 for the 23K, but I'll get to that in a sec. These Sidas T-Free socks are also a little bit thin too, and I have a US 10 here in this Kip Summit race, and it's quite large on me. I think some people are finding this to be a tight fit around the foot, and it definitely is. But in my US 10, I find this race model definitely larger than the Kip Summit Max. So I have a full thumbs width up front, and the heel does feel slightly loose to me. If you look at my Speedland videos recently, they also have high volume heels, and I put little felt pads on the inside there. That may be something I do with this shoe. You know, it's something that I never noticed in my testing. And again, just 7 days ago, I had run a trail marathon in this and didn't feel it at all. So I had no reason to think it would be an issue. But it was just the, I guess, the rockiness and the Ascent that has your heel kind of pushed back in there and flexing as you climb. And also when you're climbing, it's quite rocky. So you're climbing and there's a lot of like foot twisting as you're going over those rocks. And it just led me to notice a little bit more firmness in this heel than I had ever noticed before. So this is a thin sock. I would probably want to go with a thicker sock to fill up a little bit more space in here, since it does feel quite roomy in a US 10. But even with that US 10, even with the full thumbs width up front, I do have quite a good foot lockdown here. So it's definitely a tight, strappy feel over the top of the foot here. If you're struggling, perhaps being squeezed in the front of this model, I would recommend looking at potentially sizing up more than you think you should. But coming back to the heel, again, I probably have a little bit more heel space given that larger sizing in this shoe. So maybe I'll do something with some extra heel cushion in there, or wear a thicker sock, which brings me to my shoe choice for the 23K. Because I had that heel buster, and this is, I've been trying to get this van here all situated. I've been trying to get myself together injury wise, just getting going on this trip, packing up, finishing up. I had put this fan up there like literally days before I left. Ill prepared for this trip. I didn't even look at the race courses. I didn't know what time the races start. I forgot my taping kit, so I didn't have my KT tape. I probably have a pack of Band-Aids, but that's all I have. My like foot care kit that I keep for all my races, I completely left at home, completely forgot about it. So I had a little blister on my right heel, and I didn't want to pop it, so I kind of just left it alone. And I decided to go back to the Chirac 02 because it has a softer heel, nice heel padding in here, and the shoe is just really flexible. All this padding, brushed kind of material along the inside of this shoe, super comfortable. This is one of the more comfortable uppers out there, as long as, say, the narrowness of the shoe overall and the toe box. Of course, check out my Chirac 02 videos and my comparison with the Norda 005. If this foot shape, this toe box works for your foot, this is one of the most comfortable trail running shoes out there. So again, I ran the Ascent and the 23K in there, coming off 2 loops of the 46K in the Kip Summit race. Interesting, I was feeling really bad with that heel issue, and obviously the 46K is interesting because it is a 2-lap course. So you're coming around the first lap, you have this big climb, you come back over the backside, there's crowds of people like kind of cheering you on as you're going down into that descent to come back to the village for the end of the first lap, and you get like super hyped up. You're like, you get all this energy and you almost want to kind of like pick up the pace to go down there, but you have to be very careful because you have to go out for a second lap and you have to climb all the way back up, stairway to heaven, all the way to the top and all the way around. So you have to be very careful to manage your energy, manage your like impact running down that first descent. So coming through there, I did kind of take it easier, or at least as much as I could. And over the course of that second loop, I was able to manage my kind of heel irritation a little bit better in this Kip Summit race model, and to the point where I felt like okay, and I was like, wow, I was surprised. It kind of like went away, or at least I could kind of deal with it. The second descent, I bombed down in this shoe. Something flipped, and I was like, okay, this is the end of the 46K. I could go now, because I think a lot of this course, there's so much climbing in it, and coming off of my injury where I had to take a full month off, my fitness is okay, but I have not done that crazy climbing, and typically I don't have that type of steep climbing terrain close to home. So I can get there, but it takes a little bit more effort training wise or logistically to like get a little bit out of town and get into those steeper climbs. And that was something, if you're wanting to be serious about a race like Broken Arrow, serious about these type of grades and this type of climbing, certainly the Ascent, and also you're doing the Ascent course essentially, aside from the lower part, you're kind of winding a little bit longer on the lower section of the big loop compared to the Ascent, but you're essentially getting the same amount of gain. You want to get that steep climbing in, which I haven't done. So over the course of all of these races, I was feeling my fitness was okay. My heart rate was kind of lowish. It wasn't like full effort, but I was just held back by the ability, the muscular strength to handle those climbs. When I got into the flats and I can open it up, I felt a little bit better. And especially that second loop on the descent, I rocked it down there. I will have to go check the Strava segments, but I went pretty fast in this Kip Summit race. I just let it fly. I was like, forget it. This is the end of the loop. And at that point, throughout the 46K, I was wondering, am I actually going to go out for the 23K? Because it's a long day out there. That second loop, coming back out after getting all that energy, coming back into the village, then you come out for that second loop and it's so quiet because you're in this foresty area as you're working your way up for the first half of that big loop, and there's just like no one around. It's the second loop. People are more spread out. You're not like packed with people all around you. I ran large portions with people like nowhere near me. Like I could see maybe somebody off in the distance, or maybe somebody was quite a bit behind me. I was quite a bit alone myself for a lot of the second loop. So coming back to the shoe itself and how I was feeling, I was able to open it up on that second downhill and really crash down, and I love the stability of the shoe. I think I was talking to somebody about the stability. I find the plate quite stable, quite energetic, and the wide base front to back is awesome in this shoe. I get really good stability, and with that strap down feel, as long as it's not too tight for you, that's going to give you an enhanced lockdown for me over a shoe that I would say is similar in the Tecton X3. Now I did see some Tecton X4s out there, prototypes. Didn't get too close of a look, but I saw some people in Hoka kits. Maybe they're certainly they're athletes, and maybe certainly some of the people that work for Hoka were in the X4, and that looked interesting. But X3, I find the upper hold is not as good for me. This one's a little bit tighter, maybe a little bit more restrictive, but it's gonna keep you on that shoe a lot better. So I rocked down that. It's crazy rocky on the descent, steep at times, twisty and turny switchbacks. I had a great time, flew down that, felt fantastic, and I had such a good mood about it. I was like, okay, I'm definitely coming out for the 23K. It was in question throughout the entire, you have a lot of time to think out there, especially when you're slowly hiking, slogging up that ascent. Trust me, you got a lot of time to think whether you're going to be out there for that next day, being if you're doing the Triple Crown, for one more big loop. So coming back to the Chirac O2s, picking that mainly due to the heel blister that I had in this shoe over that 46K. I knew I definitely wanted to come with this because I knew I would be comfortable. I don't think I would have any issues with the heel, and I didn't at all. So I have pretty big irritation on my right heel from this shoe from the 46K. I came back the next day and this one didn't notice it at all. Again, I forgot my tape kit. I was a little leery to put a Band-Aid on it because I've never done that. Normally I would put maybe a Band-Aid and then KT tape on top of it. I didn't have any of my stuff, so I was like, I didn't pop it. It's still closed. I have loose skin over there. Let me just put the sock on. I put some of this, I have this Sidas cream that I got. It's like some kind of like foot cream. I don't know where I put it, but I put a little bit of that on my heel and some on my toes and stuff like that, and that worked like a charm. 23K, my feet were totally fine. I was concerned about running this shoe in that back half of the 23K coming down that steep descent because it is quite rocky. I was worried about protection because the day before, I had bombed down in this one, and it's so protective, it's so wide, you could really plow through stuff without even really thinking about it. Like, you obviously don't want to hit like major crooked rocks and stuff like that, but when it's like rocky and like fields of small, medium-ish, uneven rocks, I felt pretty comfortable just like at high speed, just like slamming through there with this Kip Summit race. Totally stable. This one, obviously, you have to pick your way a little bit more than this one, but I was quite surprised because this is the first time I was really racing this shoe. I'm trying to think, I have not raced this shoe. These were my first 2 races in this shoe, and obviously the Ascent, there was very little, if any, descent involved. Certainly not the technical nature of the second half of the course. I was concerned about, being how I'd run in this shoe, am I going to get banged up on this shoe with the lower stack, less protection, no plate in the mix? And I was quite surprised. In my reviews of this shoe, I think this TPE midsole makes a big difference in this. Huge difference. A little bit extra stack feels so much different than the 01 to me. The 01 feels super thin, super minimal. It just feels like a minimal shoe under the forefoot. Like, you really have to be careful not to touch anything and really dance. This gives you some leeway to at least hit some stuff, and I didn't feel too much getting through to my forefoot, which was quite surprising. I thought it would be a little bit more painful running through some of those rocky sections where I couldn't avoid stepping on a sharp edge or something like that in this shoe. I was amazed. I think this shoe has more range than I thought it would for, say, mid ultra distances, and certainly if you're efficient and you have strong feet, certainly longer distances. This shoe way more so than the 01, absolutely. So I had no problems in the 23K running downhill. Of course, there's some steep, just like steep dirt roads, access roads that are part of this course, certainly down to the finish. I don't know the course. This is the first time running it. There's one big climb at the end, but before that, there's a big steep road descent, dirt road descent as you're coming off the top. And a shoe like this is a little bit harsh on that. A couple people went by me like in a Speed Goat or big cushy shoes or Speed Ultra 2. That's a little tricky on the descent too. But there were some high stack, higher cushion shoes where you could more easily bomb down some of those dirt roads. With this one, you have to be a little bit more on balance. You can't just crash down into the heel on this one, more on some of those kind of steeper, just pounding descents. So that was a little bit different, but those parts I was able to manage, take it a little bit easier, but I gained an advantage. Also, I think I just freaking bombed that second descent there, or not second descent, that only descent through that rocky section in the second half of the course of the 23K. So love the Scirocco too. Let's see, other gear picks. Actually, by the way, coming back to sock picks, I went with the Sidas Run Anatomic Comfort for the third race, the 23K. So I had the thin one for the Ascent. Then I went to this T-Free, which had worked before for me in this shoe for the 46K. I think I would want a little bit more heel cushion because this one doesn't have a big padded heel. I think that type of distance in this type of shoe where I'm a little bit spacious, I'm sized for space in this shoe, ultra sizing more or less. I think I would want a little bit more cushion in the heel, and that could have probably helped with my heel blistering there. Scirocco 2 with my heel, also my toes obviously a little bit kind of squished up and banged up a little bit from 2 days of racing, plus the heel. I went with the Run Anatomic Comfort for the third day. So Sidas has quite a good range of socks. Sidas, thank you. They gave me a couple pairs of these when I stopped by to say hi at the village. This is one of my favorite ones. A lot of shoes, certainly like this, and other ones where I do go with that larger ultra sizing. This one has a cushioned heel and extra cushion around the toe box and down to the ball of the foot. The height is good too. Not super high, but not like a quarter sock, a little bit more than that. Perfect height for trail running. And this is the sock I went with, the Scirocco 2. I wanted to have a little bit of extra cush around the heel just in case, maybe a little bit of softness around the front of the toe box for that descent that I know I was going into the second half of the course, and they worked out perfectly. So 2 different shoes, 3 different socks, and 1 trail gaiter here, Trado trail gaiters. You can see I actually did laundry yesterday. Talk about this shirt I wore. It is clean. I went to the laundromat yesterday, but I forgot to throw these in. So 3 races, whatever it was, 44 something miles, pretty rough and rugged. Love these. You can see my Kip Run shoes. Look how dirty it is over here, and then look how clean it is where the gaiters were. They work fantastic. Highly recommended. I love this collar around. Keeps everything totally out. My feet, as far as grit and stuff getting into them, my socks were totally clean after every race. It was just the irritation from the shoe itself, not from anything getting inside there. let's take a look at some other gear here. In the Ascent, I did not use poles. I wasn't sure about the course at all. I saw people using them. Probably would have been good, but I used the poles, Lecky Ultralight FX1, Lecky FX1 Super Lights here. I'm gonna do a full review on this one in the near future. I had a pair of these, which I had broken, so I have these in a 125, which is a little bit longer. One feature I did notice, which is new, is they added this little tabby over here, and I find that's really helpful because when you're running and you're holding them, and if you don't want to stow them away, it's a good kind of like grab point to hold on to. And then as you're kind of like maneuvering them and manipulating them, this thing is good to kind of grab onto. It's really kind of helpful. I'm sure, oh, that's my alarm. I woke up earlier than I thought I would. I thought I might knock out. But anyway, when you're kind of setting them up, that's a good thing to kind of grab onto. It has a few different uses, and I think if you're maybe picking your way down or certain spots, maybe you could use it. I don't know. That's kind of low for that, but in any case, that's a feature that I'll definitely hone in on in my review. In the Ascent and the 23K, I wore my Raid LF2L belt. I really wanted to bring the poles for the 23K. For the 46K, I had these, and I used my Hoka 10-liter vest here with the integrated quiver. Really love this. This worked out well. I carried one soft flask for all 3 races. The aid stations on the courses are pretty close together. So depending on if you're running pretty quickly, you can get away with one soft flask. If you're taking a little bit more time, maybe you can have a couple, but it's not like drastic long distances between the aid stations. So I did like this one. I would put my one soft flask up front here. I would like to have a little rear pocket. I like to stuff a extra like bottle or something in the rear here. So this is kind of good for doing that. At times when I was climbing and I didn't want to have the bottle kind of up front too much, I would tuck the soft flask or like tuck it away back in this pocket here. And the integrated quiver is just awesome in this vest. So I only wore this for the 46K. The 23K, I didn't want to wear a vest. I felt like going up and down. I wanted to just be lighter. I wanted to use my poles, and of course you can strap the poles on this Raid belt here. It's something I tested with very little. I generally don't like to, if I'm gonna go on a run that's that long where I need poles or something like that, and perhaps this is a scenario that I don't often do, like a race that's short and fast where I need poles, so that's a little bit different there. I had tested it, but I'm not totally comfortable with it, and I hadn't done it in a long time, so I was nervous to bring the poles and just be having them stuck in my hands because they were uncomfortable on my back. So I didn't bring the poles for the 23K, which was fine. You know, I was able to get into the power hiking thing, use the hands on the quads to push my way up, so I did use the LF2L on the 23K again. Single soft flask in the back, which is awesome. Front pocket, pile in all the gels. I would typically carry about 1 or 2 gels between aid stations. I was always try to have one extra just in case, and then I would grab some along the way. By the way, Never Second, where I don't know where my stuff is. Never Second was on the course. First time using Never Second. I had tried them some samples in the past, and I found them a little bit tart, but they went down pretty easy on this course. I like, again, going back to me not bringing my blister kit and all that stuff, I didn't bring hardly any nutrition. I brought just enough like drink mix to have my one bottle at the start. I didn't hardly bring any gels or anything like that, or I didn't plan out carrying things and anything like that. So I was dependent on whatever was on the course, which was Tailwind for drinks, which is no problem at all. That's something you'll typically see on race courses. But Never Second, I was like, okay, I tried it. Never really bothered me, and it worked great. I mean, they had the cola caffeine gels, and I was doing those pretty consistently because I knew it was like a high effort race. Early in the day, I knew I could do like every other gel. I was doing a caffeine one, and then just any other flavor that I could find, I would just grab. A couple times, I think at the end of the 46K, I was really looking for that neutral flavor. Again, some of them are a little bit tart, a little bit sweet, and that's why I've been using SIS gels in the past. But again, I don't have a crew. I didn't want to do a drop bag for the 46K, and there's no other places where you could kind of like get your own stuff, so I don't want to like pile in a whole bunch of my own gels. I was just like, I'll eat whatever's there. And so again, Never Second, really loved that. As far as apparel, Fractal Adventure shirt here. Again, I went to the laundromat yesterday. This is fresh and clean. Wore this for the 23K. I thought it was a fun shirt. Want to have fun out there on the last day. Got a lot of comments out there. People were seeming to love the look. And performance-wise, there's a lot of radical airflow out there. The Nike shirt, with all the Nike employees out there, since ACG is running Broken Arrow now, they're the main sponsor and all that. You have all the Nike employees kitted out in the radical airflow. So many athletes out there, not just the pros, like a lot of people are in that radical airflow shirt. It's kind of like weird because I had never seen one out in the wild, so to speak. I'd never seen one at home in Boise. I haven't been to a race yet where I had seen anybody wearing a shirt like that, and they're just like everywhere on the race course, all around the village. Everybody's in those shirts. Kind of like, whoa, what's going on? I was kind of wondering, are people gonna really wear this thing? Yeah, they are. But anyway, I got this Fractal Adventure shirt and I loved it. I thought it performed well. I was going into the race thinking, okay, it's the third day, let me wear something a little like fun and like energetic. People will see me and maybe like yell at me or something, and that'll give me some energy. But I thought it worked really well. It's really airy when you sweat and stuff. It gets wet, but then it kind of like floats off of your body, and I've noticed a lot of airflow. Maybe it's because of the buttons and the ventilation holes here and just the looseness of it, the collar, I don't know what, but it just seemed to be like floating around my body at times and giving me like really cool like airspace around my torso. So it's not just about the look. This is my first ever button-down trail shirt. I was not going into this for looks. They offered it to me and I went for it. And I think it's awesome. It might be a little bit different when you have a vest on top of it. But if you're not wearing a vest, as I was wearing the LF2L belt, if you can have it like loose around, I think it's really effective and really cool. One thing I did do is in my 055 video, I was wearing it and then I was watching it back, and the collars were kind of like flapping a lot. I saw that in the video. I didn't notice it too much as I was going. I noticed it at the end because it was moving a little bit here, and that's where I put my microphone. So I did sew this collar down here. Again, super busy. I didn't have time to sew down the second collar, so I will sew this one down a little bit, and that keeps it from kind of like flapping around. But I didn't notice it too much. Again, I didn't notice it really when I was running in it earlier until I saw it in the video. I was like, oh, it's like kind of like moving around like this. But this is a really fun shirt, Fractal Adventure shirt. I think they have a few different colors. This is, I don't know, maybe the signature one in the collection. Super fun. I'm trying to think what else. I got the shoes, I got the gear, I got the apparel. I think that's about it. We're rolling straight into TrailCon. I have a little couple hours this morning to sleep in and have a nice breakfast, but then I'm gonna head back over to Palisades, Tahoe. I ran into Hans Troyer yesterday at the 7-Eleven on my way over here, which was pretty hilarious. I mean, I was just walking around trying to get a couple gallons of water, and there you go. Look who's standing there, also shopping for drinks, young and fit himself. So we got to talk about cameras, YouTube, Free Trail. I talked about his interview on the Free Trail podcast. He was asking, oh, how did I do? Was I okay? I was trying to think about my answers very well. And I told him, I love that interview with Free Trail. He seemed very put together to me, and this is exactly what we were talking about. It was like, I don't like when people just talk and talk and talk to fill the airspace with words. It seemed like he was very intentional about the answers that he was coming up with for each of the questions, really thinking it through versus just like spitting out the first thing that jumps into your brain. So that was cool. Good luck to Hans out at the Western States 100. How many days from now? A little bit less than a week. It's amazing. TrailCon's here. There's going to be all the Western States athletes probably mingling around town, and I'll get to meet up with a few of them. So that'll be super fun. If you're around here for TrailCon, say hi. Maybe I'll be here in this shirt. You can spot me easily, or maybe something else. I have the sun hoodie in this color as well. Thank you for tuning into this one. I hope you enjoyed this little recap of the Triple Crown at Broken Arrow Skyrace. Definitely a must-do event. The 23K is a world-class event, and the event as a whole is just like an amazing weekend for runners. So thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time with some TrailCon content.
Bye.